Welcome back to the Boys in Motion podcast, your home for all things endurance, fun, and a little bit too much Strava scrolling. I'm Andrew, here with Brian and Tyler, and today we're going to dive in to one of the most underrated training tools out there, the humble recovery workout.
It sounds counterintuitive, right? You train harder by going easier. I kind of like the sound of that. But recovery runs and rides are essential if you're going to improve in the long run, not just to burn out or stay sore forever.
Yeah, I used to blow past recovery days like they didn't matter. I'd be riding way too fast with a buddy or just pushing pace on a chill run. Now, I learned once I did my first serious training block that they do matter and you got to take them seriously. Once I learned to respect the recovery runs, my fitness jumped and I started showing up fresher on the hard days. And I think that's important for everybody.
All right, so to kick this one off, let's take a look at two different runners, because I think runners are they love doing this. They love running too quick on those recovery days. And let's look at two different runners, runner A and runner B, where runner A runs 6 days a week, but all of their runs are kind of in that medium high zone 2 effort, where in contrast, runner B has 2 days that are a nice recovery and almost feel like they're taking a nap, and 2 days that feel like absolute hell where they're going balls to the wall, full out effort. Who do you guys think is going to get faster based on these training plans?
Well, I feel like that's a speedy man just waiting to happen. I like the runner B idea because I like the naps on the easy days and you go hard on the hard days. You've said that many times, Andy.
Yeah, and I think this is the key. This is what you see in all the properly structured training plans is you do your hard days hard, easy days easy. So runner A, yes, you're showing up consistently, and that's great for many athletes. And if that's what you want to get out of the sport, that's great. But I truly believe that runner B, if it's structured properly, doing 2 recovery days and then 2 super hard workout days is going to get faster, quicker. And that's what it's all about for me. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I think we've said it before in past episodes, specificity is the name of the game. And if you're always living in that high, maybe zone 3, kind of that middle zone, you're not doing anything specific, and you're also not giving your body any time to recover to then smash your next workout. So for those people that are making those hard days, going as quick as they can, or trying to hit those paces, and then pulling back so that they can hit the next workout, definitely going to improve quick.
Yeah, and that runner B, it's a great way to do it. That's sort of what Fitzinger almost looks like. Yeah, maybe you're running 5 or 6 days a week because it's a very serious plan. But for anybody who's looking for some medium structure to their training plan, doing 2 recovery runs where you're going anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, nice and easy. Like you could hold a full conversation while you're doing it. You're staying below that zone 2 heart rate. And then those 2 days, one is a really intense, maybe VO2 max speed session where you're doing 6 by 800 meters. It's like a track session. And then the other might be a pretty fast long run where you're pushing the pace. Maybe you have some an interval of threshold in that longer run. With a mix like that, you're bound to get quicker because you're training in those key fitness zones. You're making those really hard days very difficult to accomplish. And then if you progressively overload those hard days, you're actually going to see a ton of progress. And I think that's important whether you are training for an event or not training for an event. To still have those hard days is really important.
Yeah, and making those days very seamless and efficient based on a well-executed recovery day or active recovery day, like we were saying, is just adds to that piece of the puzzle and adds to your full goal. So I think executing that recovery day is just as important as executing those hard days.
Exactly. Now, we've talked a lot about hard days, but I want to be super, super, let's say, pinpointed towards the recovery workouts. we're not talking about days off here. These are days that I would still consider a workout because you need to execute them properly. A recovery day is not a rest day. It's active, low intensity movement, usually in one of those sports that you're actually training for. So, what are some that a recovery workout might have for you guys?
Yeah, I think the number one feature of this recovery workout is that it should feel absolutely effortless. And if you are someone that uses heart rate, it should be kind of the low end of zone 2, maybe dipping into zone 1 for certain parts of it, kind of that warm up and cool down. But really that easy effort where you actually feel like you're like holding yourself back. And that is a good thing on these sessions. You want to feel like you are going slow and just kind of bopping along, getting the workout done, just getting that time on the feet or in the saddle in the pool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the toughest things is actually to like push the ego aside and try to post really slow numbers to Strava during your recovery days. Of course, you always got to, add it to the caption. Easy day, recovery day. I literally did that this morning.
Literally saw that. I was like, I was about to call you out.
Yeah, so that's you gotta do that. But I think the number one feature for me is when you're in like an intense training block or you're really upping the mileage, your body hurts. Your legs are sore, whatever, there's always something that's sore as you're building that volume. And I think the biggest feature of the recovery workout is that you go out and it lets your body move, recover a little bit, and the DOMS, like the muscle soreness that you feel, actually goes away by moving, by doing that same repetitive exercise, but in a really low intensity. There's something called like DOMS. A lot of people who work out at the gym you'll feel like in the next 3 days you'll have like peak soreness, not during your gym session, but in those days after. Same thing happens when you're running, cycling, potentially swimming. I don't know, but reducing those DOMs is the biggest feature for me of those recovery workouts. Like I had such bad calf pain like before bed last night, did a recovery workout this morning, nothing. Feel great again.
That's a good feeling. And then I also think that like getting that assurance that, oh, it's not an injury, I'm just sore from the harder days before, and you get into that recovery run or activity, and then like after that, like you said, you feel fine. It's just part of the process, right? It's you want to keep moving, keep your body moving, keep the blood flowing, make sure all the joints are working properly, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, totally. And it preps you for those future sessions, right? You feel like you kind of take this recovery day, which is nearly an off day, and then you feel good enough to bounce back into a tough day the next day.
Yeah, and for some people, they'll want to skip these workouts. And we had mentioned in a previous episode, if you're just focused on those key sessions, but recovery workouts, especially when you're pushing the volume, are essential because this is one of the biggest tools to help prevent overtraining and just having that long-term fatigue. They are generally very specifically placed in your training week between big key sessions to kind of help give that buffer and give a little time for that active recovery to make sure that you're ready for that next workout. So don't just think that, it's a day off or you should go smashing it, because they are almost just as important as those key sessions in your week.
Yeah, and you talked about volume, right? With the recovery workout, it's adding volume that's easy to your calendar. So like if your recovery workouts are like 4 kilometer runs right now, it's not too taxing to like up those to 8 kilometer recovery runs, and then you've added 4 kilometers to your week rather than having that as a part of like an interval session when it's way harder to add that like base mileage to your weekly mileage. So I think that that's definitely a feature, and I see throughout my plan those recovery runs start getting a little bit longer as time goes by. It kind of like went from 6K to 8K, and I see a few like 9.5s in my future.
That sounds like a spicy future. I mean, like we were saying, those are just as important. Get those miles in, get your volume up, and just increase that volume slowly but surely. Also, you could look at during those active recovery days, a bit of a more technique based approach too. You could look at, you're going slower, you're not focused on speed or executing paces with heart rates. You could focus more on, having that spine elongated, having a good technique, watching your run stride, and making sure everything's working fine-tuned machine.
So this is a super point. This is literally why I suggested this topic. I was out on a recovery run and I was like, in the last few long runs, I haven't been focused on form. Now I can think about my cadence. I can think about how the foot's hitting the pavement, how my posture is. And I think this is the big thing is you can sharpen your technique because you have like the mental space to do so. You're not trying so hard. You can actually think about what's happening to your body. So do you have any tips, Andrew, on like some habits that people could have in their recovery runs to work on that technique?
Yeah, actually, a couple years ago when I did the assessment for my running form, this is actually when I got the tip of pretending that someone was pulling my chest with a string, because that was something my physio noticed, was that I was more upright and not quite having that forward slant when I ran. And these recovery workouts were exactly the time when I was working on those specific running form. So as you mentioned, kind of things like cadence. So trying to either put in music. I know that's a strategy that a lot of people use, is finding like a certain BPM playlist, putting that on during those recovery workouts and just kind of trying to naturally run at that pace. That's a good time where you're not also trying to hit paces and do the cadence work. So just focus on one thing at a time, or small little drills like arm drive, putting your chest forward, little things like that. It's a lot easier to do that when you're also not taxing your body with the pace. Are there any other specific drills like in either swimming or biking that you would do like in these recovery sessions? Like I know maybe Tyler, like in a swim session, maybe is with a sport where there's lots of time.
Yeah, I was going to say what you were saying there reminds me a lot of how coaches actually form their workouts during a swim set. So even you have little swim recoveries within a bigger set, and also recovery days, of course, just like we've been talking about in the pool. But that gives you the chance to look at form. There's 5 different sections of your arm swing when you're swimming, of your stroke, and you could really focus if you're going a bit slower and reducing that speed. Obviously your heart rate's lower, and you could really pinpoint the different parts of your stroke and try to improve, the catch. You could improve the push. You could improve your kick speed. So things like that is kind of really similar to what you were just saying with the different types of efficiencies in your run strategy.
Yeah, and then just touching on the bike, like pool is something that's a little foreign to me, but I can understand you've got a few gadgets that you can play around with to really isolate pieces. And I think it's somewhat similar on the bike, is you can start to think about like parts of your pedal stroke or your posture on the bike without being out of breath. Another important piece for recovery work on the bike is picking the right route. Like I have gotten sucked into going out for a recovery ride and starting like into a big headwind, where really I should just be like focusing on crosswind only sections where I don't have to push 250 watts to go like 20k an hour, right? And then also elevation on the bike course that you pick for your recovery work is important as well. You don't want to be doing punchy climbs while you're supposed to be, under a certain wattage of power. But I think one really cool thing that I like to work on my aerodynamics when I'm out on the bike doing recovery work is actually I'll try to stay under a certain heart rate or power output, but try to keep my average speed high. And what that does is it forces me to be in those aero positions that, are taxing to be in to a certain extent because you're hunched over. But it's important for like long-term success in cycling to adapt to those bent over positions. And recovery workouts are a time where you can actually measure that progress a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that it sometimes, you take those positions for granted because you go into them and you're kind of high effort, high speed, and you don't really think about the taxing effect it does on the rest of your upper body too. So practicing those positions in a, less intense space definitely would help.
Yeah, and then the last thing for cycling is cadence. It's similar to running, and I would say it's mostly focused on higher cadence work, 100 cadence when you're doing those like easy recovery rides, because you'll see the opposite sometimes where it's like how high power, low cadence to build some real like strength and torque in your pedal stroke, but recovery work generally it leans towards high cadence, low torque.
Now, obviously, recovery workouts seem essential, lots of benefits and lots of ways to tackle them. But I have one big important question, and that's why do the three of us, and probably most of our listeners, find it so hard to go easy? And I think I'll kick this one off and I'll say the social pressures, whether that's Strava, group runs, running with friends, going out for group rides, I think that is a big contributing factor of why most of us are going way too fast. What do you guys think?
100% agree. I think it's exactly, you hit that perfectly. My issue is, I'll just go for a recovery run or a ride. For me, it's mostly rides. Just an easy coffee ride. And then you're out there, just like the memes show, sprinting to every street sign, climbing every hill in zone 5, and it turns out to be quite the workout, but not what has been prescribed.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? You get trapped in that like gray zone of medium hard days when it's supposed to be a recovery ride, and then you start feeling burnt out because you're not being strict with yourself. And my like one takeaway there would be like, don't let your recovery day turn into like a secret tempo workout, because that's what happens often, because you feel like you're wasting time a little bit. You're out working out. It should feel hard. But I think ego gets in the way a lot. But I think the people who are most successful manage that ego, and they know that those hard sessions, they're going to be, getting those kudoses on Strava. They'll be lighting the KOM charts up. So your recovery rides, you just got to say a nice easy day, check out my heart rate chart and send a winky face. And then I think you're good to go. I won't talk about going out with friends though. That's a trap that I have not addressed yet, because you start biking with the BIM boys or going out for a run with a few fast people, and it's impossible to stay in that recovery zone, I think.
Well, I have a hack. Wicked Wednesdays. It's a group run, but everybody's doing intervals. So it's wild. You do the intervals kind of together, but there's obviously some crazy fast people out there. So you're kind of doing it on your own. Recoveries are together and cool down. So you could still go hard because it's a track workout, let's call it, but you're with the boys on Wicked Wednesdays.
I think biking is more susceptible to this, as far as, because if you're going out for a group ride, you're wanting to go as a group, where running you don't get those same benefits. So I think on the bike it's more of a deadly thing, and I've seen some of those rides and been part of them when we're going for a zone 2 ride, and let me tell you, it was certainly not a zone 2 ride.
For sure. Now, the one nice thing about cycling is, depending on the level of your group, if you're as strong as average or stronger than the average person in that group, you could just say, boys, I'm sitting in the draft today. I'm chilling. I'll cook up some KD for whoever wants it on the handlebars. I'll be dishing out the pierogies, and you just chill in the draft. And I think you could probably stay reasonably in a recovery zone. But the moment those hills come and that punchy stuff starts happening, well, then you're definitely in trouble.
You can't get away from it. And I think people invite you, Brian, on these rides to take all the win. So, I mean, that'll never work for you.
Hey, I'm a glutton for punishment. I love it. So we talked about a few ways to kind of track whether you're in a recovery ride, but obviously there are some tools, some things that you can do to make the most of your recovery days. So just to mention the first one from my point of view is tracking heart rate, or not tracking heart rate at all and just doing perceived exertion. So this morning's recovery run, I specifically chose not to strap up, and I just said, I'm going to go out and it's just going to be easy, and I'm not going to worry about the stats at all. Or you can go the opposite end, which is strap up, be very disciplined with the stats, one or the other. But I think heart rate is one of those things. Perceived exertion is another way to get the most out of your recovery day. What about you guys?
I think one thing is, as far as your breathing, this is a good. I've gotten a lot of questions about breathing during running and like what's the proper way. I think practicing nose breathing, just nose breathing only during recovery session, is a great indication of you actually being in that recovery zone. Because as you start to move out of it, it becomes increasingly harder to just do nose breathing consistently. So I think just focus on that nose breathing, just in and out, and not using your mouth, and maybe just using your mouth to chat is a good way to know that you're properly using those recovery days and using them for their intended purpose.
Now, I've seen some people tape up their mouths and go out for workouts. Have you seen this, and or have you ever tried it? Tape up your mouth so you can only breathe through your nose.
I've never seen taping of the mouth. The only thing I've seen on the trails is people still wear some people still wear masks while they're running on the Martin Goodman in Toronto, and I think that's crazy enough. So I would not endorse taping up your mouth. That seems a little crazy to me. But each of them.
That's wild. I can't imagine. I'm full mouth breather going crazy out there. But I also do have, I guess I could compare again what you said with swimming, big swimming expert here. But I also do the same thing in the water. So I start when I lower my heart rate and decrease my speed a little bit, I could focus more on bilateral breathing, meaning that I guess breathing, of course, in water and while you're swimming is very important technique, and it takes a while to, let's say, get good at it. So yeah, bilateral breathing just slows everything down, works on technique and breathing at the same time, helps with your lung capacity, and I would imagine probably helps you in your other sports on land, let's say.
Interesting. Now, do you ever find it hard to do pool workouts because you can't chat the whole time?
That's that's why I do not swim in the pool. I just can't talk the whole time. So what am I there for? I've been starting to go actually Friday mornings without anybody. So it's just me, myself, and I honestly get the most productive swim of the weekend, but at the same time, I can't talk. So it's tough.
Fair. And like we said, like when you're supposed to be doing a recovery workout and then you go out with other people, it quickly becomes a non-recovery day. So I think these are the perfect days to go out solo or go out with somebody who is slower than you, who like their upper zone 2 might be your recovery pace. I think both of those are really good options. And it kind of serves as that mental reset, right? Like going for a recovery day shouldn't be like super taxing on your body, nor should it be super taxing on you mentally. And you should be kind of itching to go out for that next work.
Now, I want to ask you too, do you guys have any tried and true hacks or tools that you guys like to use to try to make sure that you get the most out of those recovery days and actually stay in those recovery zones, whether it's running, swimming, or biking? I can kick it off while you guys are thinking because I'm putting you on the spot, but mine is having a dedicated pair of clunker recovery shoes. And what I mean by that is a pair of heavy, and I actually started using support shoes for these because they tend to be heavier. I use a pair of gel Kayanos, and they're perfect for recovery days because they're heavy, they have almost no pop, and it feels like I have bricks on my shoes, so it just slows me right down for the recovery days. And that is my secret for going slow on those recovery days when I really need just a little rest on the legs.
That's a good call. I might try that. Pull out one of my old pairs of almost semi-retired trainers and give them a spin for the old clunkers. I do like it. Maybe this is a hot take because we did also talk about in the past morning versus evening workouts. I do like to turn my morning workout into a recovery workout because it's just, for me, it's sometimes hard to get up. Most times it's very hard to get up, but you still want to go out there and be productive. What's better than just getting out there for you have no goal in mind, just going out there for a slow run or a slow ride on the trainer, spin out the legs, do, 30 minutes to an hour, and you're still productive in the morning.
Yeah. So I think that's like morning is a really nice time to do those recovery workouts because it's easier to get out of bed for that easy session than it is for a super tough session. But I'm the same as Andrew when it comes to running. I have 2 pairs of shoes that I dedicate to recovery, basically. They're basically shoes that I didn't like going fast in, and then they quickly became my recovery shoes. They're a little clunky, they're a little heavier than I would have liked, and they don't have that snap that makes you feel like you need to run fast in a certain pair of shoes. And I think if you get enough of a rotation of shoes, you'll start to find those shoes that want to go fast versus those that kind of hold you back. The other thing that I do is I'll listen to like interview or like work podcasts when I'm out on a recovery run. So I'll listen to like HBR IdeaCast, which is like interviews about like professional development and whatever like it might be. And recovery runs, I have enough mental clarity to actually take that in. Whereas if I'm doing like a super hard VO2 session, I'm either not listening to anything or I'm listening to like my run harder playlist, which is all beats that make me want to push. So I think that's one of the tricks that I use to help push me into that recovery zone. Boring learning podcasts.
That's freaking nice. Just make you want to go for a nice nap again. Well, I guess I'm still on the fence here for I don't know when I'm pushing too hard or when to go too easy. So give me a couple signs of how do I know I'm going too hard?
Yeah, I can kick this one off. I think a lot of this podcast, we've been chatting about heart rate, and this, if you know your predetermined heart rate zones and you know where that high end of zone 2 lives, if you are taking in reliable heart rate data with a nice strap as opposed to a wrist heart rate, because that, depending on conditions, is kind of hard to trust during the activity. But if you see that heart rate creeping above your aerobic threshold zone, then you know that it's time to pull back. And I know one specific key point where I think a lot of people get caught is on inclines, where they just try to go by pace. And if you're on incline and you're trying to go close or the exact same pace, it's very likely you're probably crossing over that aerobic threshold, and you should maybe slow down just a little bit and take it easy.
Yeah, I really like that. For me, one of the signs that I'm not recovering properly during my recovery workouts is that soreness that I talked about earlier in the episode doesn't go away or at least get better after that recovery workout. I always find that going out for a recovery work, if I have some soreness or some heaviness in the legs, that recovery work tends to flush it out a little bit, stretch things up, limber things up, and I actually come out feeling better, more energized after a recovery session. So if your soreness isn't going away, if you're feeling more tired, you're probably doing it wrong. So Tyler, I'm going to turn it back on you. Do you have anything?
Mine is just, I think I could tell I'm going a bit too hard, or, we talked about it earlier on in the episode, just 6 days of going medium. I sometimes I get trapped into that cycle for a full week, is just always being tired, and you can't, let's say you can't catch a break. You don't regain that win. So you kind of can't go full effort on those hard workouts, and you're also never recovering. So it's kind of, you're trapped in that cycle. You want to keep training, but you're always tired. I think that's kind of my main key to showing that I'm just doing those recovery days.
Yeah, true. Being excited for that next session where you will go hard is a great feeling after recovering for a day or two. Right before we switch over, I think what you guys might consider a hot take. And it came from this morning's workout, which was I looked down at my watch and I was like, wow, this is nice and slow. I thought it was nice and slow. But if you're not a little bit embarrassed by your recovery pace, then it's probably not easy enough. But I think Andrew has instilled it in me that recovery should be as easy as you can possibly go. So it's something that I'm proud to post now. But back when I wasn't as comfortable with posting those slow paces, I would have been embarrassed by it.
That's the thing. I know a year ago, Brian would have seen that run and you would have hidden the pace. You would have just go to data, hide pace, and then
Frig.
just call it a day. Post, but or just hide the whole workout. You just it happened, but let's hide it from all the viewers.
Not worth.
Yeah, I mean, we all know you as the one that's always pushing the pace, but those recovery workouts are going to help you do it. So.
Oh yeah, I love them. No, that's super. Is there anything else that you guys have on recovery pace? Because I got a few chat time items that I need to get out of my system.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you post a recovery workout with the recovery pace, then you might get some comments. What are you even recovering from? So that's another one. You get the Strava investigators.
Who chirped that? Who was it? To Andrew,
Chris
right?
Carter. Oh yeah, I had just what was it? I took a few down days for something. It was either. Anyways, I took a few down days for whatever reason, life stuff, and then I come back and I just jumped right back into my plan, and it just happened to be a recovery 6 mile at the beginning of the week, right? And then, what are you recovering from? ? And I was like, this just an absolute menace.
Absolute chirps coming from this guy. I loved it, so I'm all in for it. I also, one last thing to talk about those slow paces on Strava. I like making myself feel better by just saying I'm practicing my Ironman marathon pace. So that's all I do.
That's the walk run special then.
You're just practicing just trudging in water. That's what you're doing.
It's just basically a beach walk. It's hilarious. But Chris is a legend. I think he and Pete will be fighting for the BIM 2025 award for best Strava chirp.
That is true. Pete's got something coming for him.
I think we might.
Just wait. If we introduce the two of them, it might be World War III.
I think we might need to start doing a monthly or like quarterly roundup of BIM community chirps and just put them like in a post and then get like votes of who is the king or queen chirper of the month or something, because we got some chirpers.
If you start giving people that platform, though, this community's going to get too riled up and it'll just be everybody chirping everybody, and nobody will have the confidence to be like posting things they're proud of because they'll know they'll get hammered.
Yeah, post a new PR race and then just getting absolutely obliterated by the community of, oh, is this a recovery run? ?
This is Andrew's recovery pace?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that was also a legendary chirp. I feel like, Tyler, you've been on the brunt end of the Pete chirps when it comes to your run paces, but
no, I love it.
Okay, so for listeners who don't know this, we're recording this on July 14th, and that's 2 weeks before the post date. The reason that we're doing that is a reason that Tyler and Andrew actually don't know about. And it's because I have to go get a wisdom tooth extracted 2 weeks from now, which means that when this episode gets posted, I'm going to not be able to exercise for the 4 or 5 following days, which means there's going to be a break in my plan. And this is the first major, let's say, wall in the way of the sub 3 project. What do you guys have to say?
That's wild. Only one tooth though? I think you'll be fine.
Only one, but it's a serious pain. So whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, it's kind of the same recovery time.
Yeah, that's going to be wild. You'll be bedridden for a few days, and you probably haven't had that in a while.
No, I think I've had like maybe 2 or 3 times where I've taken more than 3 days off since we started the pod.
Other than your wedding, you had a few day bender there, but
only 2 days off though. 22K long run the day before the wedding.
It's true. That's true.
So yeah, do you have any tips for me? Like, I'm going to listen to this episode when it comes out. Do you have any tips for me 2 weeks from now to keep the spirits high and to keep me motivated and still secure that the sub 3 project could still be on pace?
Wise man Andy, take it away.
Well, I think you should blast out of the operation room, just all high on all the good stuff, all woozy, and just hit right to the track and try to go out and do a 12-mile marathon pace workout, because you won't know any better. Sanity will be out the window.
That's true. I'll be so woozy. I should be able to hit it. I'll be hitting something, whether it's the floor or the pace. I'll be hitting something.
I
You'll be like You'll be like Mike at The Bachelor.
I mean, yeah. I do have in all seriousness, an actual question. Was this because you sent us your training plan, and I don't believe that this down week was on it. So this is a kind of unexpected in the training block?
This is an emergency extraction. There's like a cavity below the tooth that has eaten away at bone, and it's like concerning. I could lose another tooth if it doesn't get extracted quickly. So basically, I learned about this at the beginning of last week, that it was as serious as it is, and they moved me up in the priority list. I was hoping I could push it off the block. So talking about training blocks, you'll see that I'm supposed to actually have a down week kind of in the coming week from the day we're recording. So actually last week. So I'm going to move basically some volume around so that my real down week is the week of the operation. So I am making a few adjustments so that I can still get those key workouts in. And maybe the morning of the operation, I'm going to do a freaky workout just to get one more out of the system.
One more before you friggin' lose a tooth, but you'll be lighter at least. That is a great. I was gonna just say that I think you should shift around, your recovery week to try to hit that on the week that you won't be doing a few workouts, of course. But I kind of did that with the wedding, and hopefully it works well. Moving the low week to the week that you don't have anything, you can't do anything, I think is the right game plan.
Yeah, exactly. And then cutting out some cycling, that's fairly easy. So I think it should go well on the running front. I think I'm maybe dropping like 20 or 22K from the overall plan, something like that.
Yeah.
That just means you'll be fresh.
And I think at this point, it looks like that will be week 7 of your training block. So you already have 6 good weeks under your belt. I would really just use this week to just kind of absorb that training, and training as consistently and for as long as you have. Like, you could have up to probably 2 weeks of very little activity and not lose too much. So I think just focus on trying to get a few runs in before, come back, do a few recovery workouts. Don't try to push too hard right into it, and then jump back into the plan would be my advice.
Very nice. That settles it then. I go on with the extraction. I'm not gonna skip that appointment.
Extract. Maybe that week I'll have a higher week than you.
It might happen. We'll see though.
It'll be my taper week.
It all depends on what I can sneak in on like the morning before and then 5 days after.
That's true. What's the date again?
I think, what would it be? July 28th.
Oh, frig. That's my taper
episode's
week.
Coming out on the 29th.
Yeah, that's my taper week. I'll be in full spook mode.
Yeah. Okay. So this is exciting. So we are technically going to be 1 week out from Ironman Ottawa.
True.
I guess that's what we should focus the rest of the episode on, is what are the targets? I know we're a few weeks out right now, but I would imagine you have some targets that you want to hit.
Frig, you say that, which is hilarious. I was looking at that today. I just closed the tab before this episode. I had my whole pace calculator up, and I think I have something pinpointed. So I'm pretty excited. And I think it might be in the play. It depends on the weather, I think, of the day, but it'll depend. It'll depend on the weather and if the Bonkosaurus Rex comes after me.
Yeah, I mean, heat's going to be the biggest factor of the day, I think. So, yeah. Sorry, Andrew. I saw you unmuted. What do you got to say?
I just didn't hear any specifics in that statement. I wasn't sure if there was anything that you could share with the listeners.
The guy's pulling a Kennedy Brunton in the interview before Around the Bay.
Exactly. I was going to say, do you actually want some numbers here or what? You're putting me to the fire?
Yeah, let's hear it, because we're going to be debriefing. Andrew's going to be deep in the woods next weekend going backcountry portaging. And so it'll just be you and I on the pod, and the debrief is going to be hot. And I'm not going to filter myself when it comes to evaluating your race. So okay. I want to hear what that A goal, B goal, C goal is, if this is kind of the last moment we have to chat.
And the week after that, I'm going to have a week to analyze your run. So I'm going to be.
Oh, that is true. On the Strava Investigator will be out in full fledged.
Are you running like a full mathematics model right now? Or are you just plugging away in
Oh,
Excel trying to
oh
figure out
yeah,
what that time is?
I'm trying to pull up my past. I did it this morning. I literally passed. I pulled up all my past results, put my predicted results in a calculator, and I'm just pulling it up right now. As a matter of fact, okay.
Okay, let's
So
hear it.
do you want a overall time right now?
Give us the overall, and if you have some breakdowns, we'd love to hear them as well.
Okay, so I have a real, I say a goal is 11 and a half is my a goal. Just rounding it, I'm actually rounding it down. So it's pretty aggressive, I would say, at 11 and a half.
So sorry, what is your PR?
My PR is 11:58, so just under
And
just
that's
under
Maryland flat but wet.
Maryland flat, but real wet. Yeah.
Okay, okay, wet ankles. Okay.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so I kind of, did, and I guess you could say my B goal would be sub 11:45, I think. And then finishing, I'll be happy with finishing. Ironman, when you finish, you feel amazing. Well, not really, but
So what does that entail time
yeah,
wise?
so that's what I was going to say. I'm being conservative on the swim, I'm trying to hit a 2 minute per 100-meter swim. So that gives you a 1 hour 17 swim leg. So anything under sub 120, I'll be very happy with. My swim PR is like a 113, I think. It was actually my first one. So I was very fast on my first Ironman, but we'll see if I could recreate that. Maybe, with the hometown race, I could get a nice little PR. And I know the investigators will be out for the transitions. So
Oh,
I'm doing I think a realistic goal actually for the transitions, both be under 6 minutes. It went
Now,
from,
does that include like like running to and from the station?
yeah, yeah. So it
Okay.
depends on
This
how
is what I
long.
realized like also takes time, I think. Like you
Yeah,
can budget like a minute each direction. So you're
yeah,
only at the station for 4, really.
yeah. Yeah, like sometimes it'll depend on the course layout, but like Tremblant was very far of a run to the bike. Maryland was not that far, and Ottawa I think will be very short as well. So I'm thinking a 6 minute will be good. I still don't know about my outfit changes, so I don't know if I'm going tri suit to run to bike suit. I'm not sure yet. It'll also depend on wetsuit legal swim or not. So that's all up in the air for now. We'll leave that to surprise and to the post race recap maybe. But I'm trying to get to a sub 550 180K. So that gives you about 31 kilometers an hour is a 548. So I think with the wattage I'm trying to pull, depends on the wind again and the conditions, but I'm thinking that is a not over biking territory, but also not too slow. So I'm thinking I could stay within that range. And then of course the dreaded marathon, I'm trying to keep a 6 minute pace. So that'll give me a 413 marathon. I think the sub 4 marathon will be a little bit too much out of reach. I think it'll be a nice walk for the second half again. So I'll try to stick within that 6 minute per K pace, and we'll see where that brings me.
Very nice. I'm excited to see that marathon. I'm excited for the other legs too. But if how what is the math on all of that? That's just
That's what I gave the two.
11:30?
That's 11:31. This exact split is 11:31. So if I beat any of these by a couple minutes, I'll get the sub 11:30.
Nice. And that bike sub 550, would that be a PR or did you go faster in Maryland?
I think I went faster in Maryland. I think I was 31.8 or something like that kilometers an hour. So I was, I think, in the 540s, but very, very flat. This will have about, I think, 800 meters elevation. So not hilly, but not pancake either. So I do like the rollers. I think that'll actually complement my riding style. I like pushing down the downhills and kind of muscling my way up the uphills. So we'll see where it goes. I've heard this saying come out of Wicked Wednesdays here with all the doctors on board. It's bike for show and run for dough. So that's what I'm trying to do here.
There we go. Well, I hope you can show us the way and I hope you have a successful day. We will, I hope, be posting a little bit, some updates. It'll be on me to post those updates to the Instagram and make sure that people are seeing your progress, and hopefully some of the other BIM athletes. I hope the Ironman app, I feel like the Ironman app's pretty good at tracking all of that stuff. So we'll be sure to be posting about how your day is, what the successful or unsuccessful result is. And I'm looking forward to debriefing technically next week. Cool.
100%. Thanks, guys. That's a wrap on today's episode. I'm excited to see also, Brian, how you recover from this amazing surgery. I know you'll come out stronger and lighter. So that's very good. And like always, thanks for cruising along with us on today's episode.
I don't know. I think you may have just stole the Coffee Cruisers podcast outro, but we're going to roll with it. So if you've been enjoying the pod, don't forget to follow us, Boys in Motion, on Instagram, subscribe wherever you're listening, and join the Strava group so that you can stay connected and see all of our recovery runs and keep us accountable and make sure we're not going too fast. And hey, maybe you can share it with a training buddy so that they can be held accountable on their recovery days too.
Exactly. Those buddies who can't stop racing their recovery days, this episode's for them. We're not medical pros. If you are dealing with an injury, fatigue, or burnout, talk to a coach or a healthcare expert.
Slow her down, level up. You don't always have to hammer it down. Just keep showing up. We'll catch you later.